What is up, all you fell degenerates out there? I'm sure many people were super sad that last week I did not cover episode 6 of Isekai Harem. Granted, I've gotten comments saying, how can this guy talk this long about such a stupid show? Because I want to. And people enjoy it, and we have a lot of fun together. But yeah, I did skip episode 6 doing impressions on it just because I didn't really feel like I had much to talk about. Yes, there was the aspect of them going to the boss, them getting herbalism from the boss by killing it and getting the stuff from it. And yes, technically exploring the concepts of going to the second floor, different mob levels, and all that kind of stuff. It was interesting. I got more of a kick about that episode and the idea of just how, like, unapologetically gamey this entire world is, and how, like, everything's set up in a way that it's just like a dungeon from an old RPG. Like, you have to go through the first level again to get the second level. If you teleport out, you have to start from the very beginning again. The boss chamber itself won't, like, activate unless only one party is inside of there. It's like, it's just not going for realism. Like, this is not a real world that he's in. It's just legit a video game. Because there's all these different aspects and rules and game rules that are in it that everybody kind of just understands. And it's kind of super cheesy in that way, which, not a big deal. It's not really a big deal. He has stat screens and junk, and everybody has these cards and stuff. So it makes sense in the end. And yes, technically exploring the idea that there is poisons in this world, which, again, I kind of like the aspect that he's, like, super shocked by this. Because, again, it kind of gives it more of an old school JRPG feel to it, because anybody that has played, like, an old NES, SNES RPG, you know, those games when you got poisoned, it was literally like you had to do something. Like, it was just so punishing. These days, you get poisoned by something in a video game, it typically just kind of slowly drops your HP, and you usually can just kind of offset it somehow. So all that stuff was kind of fun. But yes, technically at the very end, getting into the concept that Alan's place is being watched by bandits. The guy that he sold to him before apparently is linked in with these people. They came by to buy him, and they're setting something up, which is to kind of open the door and let him in. So it was to give it some credit here. Obviously, Roxxane stepping forward and saying, please, can you help Alan with this, was really her pushing beyond what she's allowed to do and almost speaking up. I mentioned this in my live stream last week because I acknowledged the idea that that's technically the first time Roxxane's ever spoken out. It's hard to really gauge the personality of somebody who has been bought because they're not allowed to have those emotions. So this is the first point where she kind of felt enough confidence to say, Meikyuu, please help him. It was her stepping forward when she normally shouldn't be. Yes, that led into the beginning of this episode, episode 7, where we do have them fighting off the bandits. Now, honestly, to be truthful, very anticlimactic. I mean, yes, it has a very crazy end to the whole situation, but it was like, literally Alan's like, yeah, I hired you, but I'm not letting you fight. I'm going to go down there and handle it. I couldn't ask you guys to do that. So he really just kind of leaves him up there to protect everybody while Alan handles it. So it does kind of, you know, at least put some emphasis on Alan not being a pushover. Like, this dude goes down there with a sword, like, he's like, whatever, I'm going. You chill out here. I'll handle the situation. But yes, Meikyuu does end up going down there, finds a running bandit, which was somebody from before. I don't remember who he was. But yes, he tries out one of the last spells that he has, which is equivalent exchange, which, honestly, the way that they portrayed it was kind of freaky. It's kind of one of those ones where, yeah, don't use that ever again. It became beneficial to him because it unlocked so many other spells, but that wasn't a good thing. I mean, you're literally gambling, because even if somebody's lower level than you, they could have more HP than you. I've played, again, this going back to the gaming aspect, I've played plenty of video games where even though your character is like this level, the mobs themselves or enemies sometimes can have just everything put into HP, or they can have some sort of special class that allows them to have a large amount of HP. Bandits themselves could be very durable and have high HP. He doesn't know that. So it's legit a gamble. And he gambles it, and thankfully he wins, but he nearly dies. And he gets to see what the equivalent exchange does to his opponent, the idea that they just explode. I think at that point, really kind of acknowledging the idea that, yeah, if I do fail this, it's not as simple as me maybe passing out or something, or maybe being fainted. No. Just boom. I like how Alan at least found some way to kind of offset it by saying that there's like some explosive orb that some carry with them to take themselves out. So at least it kind of covers up for Meikyuu and what he did. But still very, very gruesome conclusion to that whole situation, which just leads into a lot of experimentation and progress in the Labyrinth. It seems now that he's used that, he does have these new spells. He wants to try all these spells, so he tries out Fireball, fire wall and fire storm. And it seems like every element has those particular classifications. Acknowledge the idea that he can use water wall in order to produce water that he can drink, so that kind of helps him for his travels. Adding that the fact that he has this ability to drain mana, so at least it's pretty much like he has an unlimited supply of water at this point. We do have Meikyuu at this point kind of, I guess, lay out what his goals are. I mean, we've kind of hinted on the idea that, yes, he technically bought Roxxane to be a fighting partner, and I kind of acknowledge the idea that I think in episode 4, where it doesn't seem like he's really using Roxxane. Like, Roxane's always kind of in the background, and he's doing stuff, which makes sense because he's doing a lot of trial and error. But at the same time, it makes you wonder, like, what's the point of her even being there besides just to pick up sticks? But it kind of hits it on here. He does not want to lose Roxxane. Now that he has her, he's grown attached to her. He doesn't want to put her in harm's way. So it is pretty much turning into him just being in the front line and her just being in the back, which I'm curious at some point when that will shift, because I'm assuming the writer doesn't want to have Roxxane just always be following him and telling him what he needs to know about the world. It kind of makes it, you want her to be fighting. You want her to get stronger. Yes, he does technically talk about wanting to raise both their levels, getting to the point where they no longer have to have that risk in the world. He does acknowledge death, and he doesn't want death upon him or Roxxane. I will say that it seems like it's making magic way overpowered in this world. Like, I guess it's not really overpowered. Again, it's similar to the idea of an old JRPG, and the idea that, yes, he's got a massive amount of power. He does need to level it up, make it stronger, get a magic casting ability or equipment like a staff or something like that to make it like its best. But for a lot of things, it seems like it's one-shot. At least the kobolds is like one-shotting them. He's able to attack more than one. But in most cases, it's always limited in magic because you have a limited mana supply. But he has a ability to be able to drain mana, so he's able to continuously go. Yeah, following this, we get into, they had a little scene with him and Roxxane, getting a little bit of Roxxane style in the bed. But this leads to talking about going to Quotar, which is this town that has these permanent shops, whereas the town he's in pretty much has temporary shops on at certain times. I remember this a lot in things like Ultima Online and World of Warcraft, whenever you would like charge people to port them to different places because it was too annoying to have to travel there. So you would just stand in town and say that you were going to open portals to different locations, and you would sell those locations to people. Yeah, he gets ported around, and then that allows him to be able to use his teleportation to each place, and that drains him. They also had, of course, he took on the second level boss, like no problem, goes on to the next floor. That's when he meets the kobolds. The kobolds are stupid weak, which is kind of weird. I could be overthinking this. I do this a lot. It almost makes it Meikyuu sound as if he's trying to, I guess, suggest that there's a reason why the kobolds are where they're at. They're like stupid weak, but yet they're like, third floor and up. So I guess he kind of assumes that the reason why they're there is because they're more human-like. So he's kind of glad that they're way high up on the floors, just because that allows him to sort of get used to the idea of killing enemies and doesn't hesitate to kill the kobolds. Anyways, we did wrap up the episode acknowledging that at this town center of Quotar, they do have a labyrinth there. So I'll be interested to see how different that place is. I'll be curious to see if maybe that labyrinth itself is more higher level starting point than the one that he was at. Maybe the one that he was at is a labyrinth that starts at level 1. This labyrinth could possibly start at a higher level and go up from there. So I'll be interested to see how that one turns out. Very curious of that one. But yeah, that's my thoughts on episode 7 of Harem and Labyrinth of Another World. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure to hit that like button down below, comment. Let me know what you thought of the episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already so you get all my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, discussion videos. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, we have a Patreon link, a tips link, and a super thanks button down below. Greatly appreciate everybody that does, and y'all take care.